Welcome to the High Performance Hockey Podcast. Today's question comes from Joel. As a reminder, please submit your DM me your questions at our Twitter feed at the HPH_podcast. Joel's question: how does in-season programming change from a philosophy standpoint? And it's a great question, broad in nature, but we use a model in our off-season called gain, go, and grow. It's just an easy way for our athletes to form an intent on the day's work. So gain is lift heavy things very slow. We complement that with acceleration work, higher impulse plyometrics, and we lift heavy weight. Our go day, lift submaximal weight for speed. We have stretch shortening plyometrics, time sprints. And our grow day is lift submaximal weight for time. So think of that as repeat effort method. We have longer impulse plyometrics, such as bounds, etc. And we do change of direction or more extensive work for energy system. So typically in season, we keep our gain go and we eliminate our grow days. So at the onset of the week, we lift heavy things slow. Closer to game time, it would be much more reactive in nature. We deload more nervous system. So we get a neural component on both days, one more for strength and one more for speed. Now, having said that, some other things that we change during the in-season, we choose exercises that hopefully eliminate or decrease delayed onset muscle soreness. So a reverse lunge instead of a forward lunge, just step up instead of a heavy back squat, right? These are more concentric based. We've also started adding, reflexive eccentrics into our work. So instead of those accentuated or slow eccentrics where you get fatigue, etc., reflexive eccentrics are something that we'd add to increase eccentric rate of force development and not get that delayed onset muscle soreness. Finally, exercise selection in terms of our hip dominant exercise earlier in the week and our knee dominant later in the week. Hip dominant are more, our longer muscles are type 2 and they take longer to recover. So these are all small little things that may not look obvious in a program, but that's how we view it in season. Now, welcome to today's podcast and welcome today's guest, a friend, mentor of mine, Mike Robertson, who is the founder of Robertson Training Systems. Mike is the president of Robertson Training Systems, the co-owner of iFast, Indianapolis Fitness and Sports Training. iFast has been named one of the top 10 gyms in America by Men's Health magazine 3 times in the past 6 years. Mike is he's been around for a long time. We actually got in the business almost identical times in terms of our businesses. So he's been coaching for 20 plus years. We speak about the business. We speak about the changes. We speak about his current business model, how we used to have an intern component, why that's changed. We talk about advice for young coaches. We talk about training philosophy. We talk about the acquiring technology. It's a fantastic conversation. Mike is one of my favorites in the field, a good guy. Always, I think the thing that impresses me, most about Mike is he leads with humility and he wants to leave the profession in a better place. Really hope you enjoy this conversation. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the podcast, Mike. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, Ant-Man. Thanks so much for having me, dude. I'm excited to be on.
I think I met you for the first time face-to-face probably 15 years ago at a PRI seminar.
That sounds about right.
And I know I've told you this on the air before. I've told you face-to-face, but you've always been someone I greatly respect in our industry for a lot of reasons. I think number one, the quality of the information that you shared. Number two, the person that you are. You're a humble human being. You lead with humility. And I can feel that. I mean, I'm sure that permeates onto your athletes. And number three, again, how you leave the profession for the younger coaches, in my opinion, in a better place. So let me start by thanking you.
Thank you,
it's going to be a fun conversation for me because I look back and I've been in the business now, a small training business for 20 years.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
2005 of April. So you've been in the game for just as long, if not
Yeah.
longer.
Yeah. Yeah. 24 years. The gym has not been around 24 years. You've got us beat on the gym. We're 16. I always think Cressy will never catch Cressy because he's a year older than us. But yeah, I mean, you've got us both beat if you're at 20, dude. That's
I want to
impressive.
start right with that. So you've been in this business for a long time. So
Yeah.
I think it's awesome because the questions that I'm going to ask you are a combination of probably mistakes that you made, and then also too like what you see now, possibly the strengths of some of these young coaches, perhaps the weaknesses that you see that are gaps that haven't been filled, whether it be technology, social media, etc. But let me start rewinding and ask, how did you get involved in coaching at the get go? And who are some of the mentors that fan that flame of passion?
Yeah. Man, this is such a great question. So I will give you the super short version of this because
Okay.
it can be in a long and extended one if you want it to be. But the short version is like most of us, I grew up as an athlete, very mediocre at best, especially from the physical side. And more importantly, I was always that kid that was a little bit behind developmentally
Yep.
because this is a day and age where like boys were routinely getting held back,
Yep.
right? Because if you get held back, you have an advantage in sports. So first off, I'm a July birthday, July 27th, in case anybody cares. With an August 1 start of the school year, right? So I'm already like right up against that. So I'm like the last kid to have a birthday, and all these other guys are getting held back a year. So I'm like a year and a half developmentally behind a lot of these kids. And I recognize that, right? Because I love sports. So it wasn't until in between my sophomore and junior years, again, this is 1994, when
Yep.
we get our first weight room. And I start to realize, oh crap, like when I'm doing this stuff over the course of a summer, I'm doing idiotic stuff, right? Machine-based
Yeah.
circuits,
Oh yeah.
of 100, benching every, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and maxing on Fridays because you never know if you got stronger that week. But I'm doing all this dumb stuff. And, when you're getting started, the newbie gains are a real thing.
Oh yeah.
So I start seeing progress. And over the course of that summer, I just in basketball, that was my love at that point in time. It's like, hey man, more range on my jump shot, more zip on my passes. But now all the older guys or the upperclassmen that are coming back, they're not pushing me around anymore. So that's when I knew immediately, like, this is my thing. Like, if I can find a way to merge weights and athletics, that is my jam. And it really started for me because I just messed around all of college as far as the weight room, and I didn't really know what to do. I'm following the Muscle and Fitness or
Oh
Flex
yeah.
magazine because that's what we
So we
have
had.
access to. Um, but it wasn't until in between my senior year and when I started my graduate assistantship that I got that first taste of an athletic weight room.
Yep.
And that was it, man. That was it. I was like, this is the thing because now I can merge my love of sports and my love of weights. And so, as far as fanning the flames, dude, I mean, I got to give a couple shout outs. Obviously, Dr. Kramer and Dr. Robert Newton. Robert Newton, I mean, how did I luck into these guys?
Yep.
Two of the foremost strength and power
Studs.
guys
Yeah.
are in the lab that's in my hometown when I can become a graduate assistant.
Wow.
Like, that's uncanny, right? Because we're talking about two of the foremost guys. And by the way, I just did it as an afterthought because I thought I was too immature to go get a real job. So I'm so lucky that that happens, right? So I get in with them, and then at that point in time, I'm like reading everything, right? That's when T Nation is first coming out. So I'm reading, oh, Charles Poliquin, who is this guy? Ian King, you know? So you start with those guys, and then it morphs into I want to be a power lifter because I need to get stronger. So now I'm learning from Dave Tate and Louis Simmons. And so that it's just such a different era. And I know you can relate to this because we
Big
came
time.
up in a similar era, but we had to seek out trusted experts to gain knowledge from. And these people had done, they'd talked the talk, they'd walked the walk, they'd achieved either world-class success in their sport or they developed world-class athletes. So that's what really got me started, man. It's like I knew I wanted to do this, so I tried to find the best and then emulate them.
Let me ask you this question, off the cuff question. Do you think that's
Yeah.
still happening now? Like, and let me really rephrase the question. Maybe it's because of social media. I
Hmm.
just had this conversation with Brajesh Patel and Kevin Neal. We talked
Yep.
about we're very similar in age.
Yeah,
We
all of
talked
us.
about like exactly what you just talked about, but taking a step further, and I've met you through many of these as well, is not just
Yep.
reading these people's work. You're
Hmm.
going to
Yeah.
seminars, you're going to visit, you're going to be a fly in the wall and
Yep.
ask questions. Do you feel that that's happening now? For younger coaches, do you feel that's a gap that needs to be happening, or is that something that's being filled right now through social media?
Well, I think people think they're filling it through social media, but you and I both know there's like the pre-canned stuff, right? The things that you can put into a course, but then there's the dynamic element that you don't
Oh,
get if you're not in the room,
oh yeah,
right? So, like, what happens when I can ask you a question and say, well, Ant, okay, this is great. What happens when that doesn't work? What's your next level? So that's when you really start to understand somebody's level of thinking and
sure.
where their level of understanding is at. So I think you're absolutely right. I think social is like kind of fool's gold in that sense. You think you really know something about somebody, but you're learning it in 1 minute segments, 60 to 90-second reels. That's not going to cut it. So you need the depth, right? So you need like the cohesive learning structure, but then being in the room, as well as I do, you're in a room for 2 days, right? If you're any kind of student, you're going to put the phone away. You're going to lock in, you're going to ask questions, you're going to go to lunch, you're going to hang out with people. After the event, you're going to go out to dinner with people, maybe have a couple drinks. Now you're getting the practical side. Well, I did this and this worked. Oh, well, I do this and this worked. It's like there's just a whole nother level of experience that I think, and I don't want to just cast this wide net and say no young coaches are doing this, but I think it's something that we're losing in our industry and we need to try and get back.
And you just brought up a point. If you're any kind of quotes, a coach in quotes, and I know the kind of person you are. You're the kind of
Hmm.
person that's an autodidact. You're self-taught. You're always learning. You're
Yeah.
getting resources. Let me ask you that though. Can you teach that? And I'll tell you, this is my narrative. And I don't want to sound pessimistic with this. We've run
Yeah.
an internship program for close to 15, 20 years. I
Yeah.
used to think I could teach that to kids. I
Yeah.
used to think that I've got all the books in the world. I got all the resources. All you need to do is check them out. I got
Yep.
this. I got that. Hey, I'm going to put the ball in your court to check those resources out.
Yep.
And I'll be honest with you. I'm pleasantly surprised many times in a not so positive way. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. I'm not.
Yeah.
Everybody's different. Can you
Yeah.
teach that? I had Carmen Bott on the podcast. I asked her
Yep.
about teaching critical thinking. She said, "Anth, I think you can if you're a great teacher. You can give you know programming and talk case studies and then defend your
Yeah.
program, and that's great. But do you see that with your? I know we're going to talk about interns and your internship program, but what
Yeah.
do you see in the private sector?
Yeah. Um, so I don't know. This would be my hot take on this, right? I think you
Yep.
can teach it, but probably not by the time they get to us. It's probably a lot harder. So case in point.
Yep.
So my daughter is in the best way to describe it, it's called We the People. I would
Okay.
describe it as debate club for the Constitution.
Cool.
And she's in eighth grade, dude.
That's
So like
awesome,
all of a
actually.
sudden, I know, right? We're having all these what is a federalist state? What is sovereign, like all
Yeah.
these crazy conversations I never expected to have with a 13-year-old. But what it's cultivated through these teachers in this program is there's curiosity,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh
There's
yeah.
curiosity. And so part of it is they have to write a paper, right? So they have a topic and questions and they have to write a paper. But then it's a firing squad. So after you do your 4 minute paper, now, hey, everything you have in that paper, you better be able to substantiate it. And it can't just be, I feel, I think. Hey, they're reciting like cases. Hey, you know, Tulip Tree in 1953 found that, like, that's a level of curiosity that you have to cultivate, but she's getting that so young,
Yes.
right? So I think it starts with the right parents, the right teachers. Because that's such a great point that you make, Ant, because the three things that I always talked about, I need somebody that's willing to work hard, right? I need somebody that's curious, and I need a good human.
Yep.
Those are my three qualifications. And if you don't have all those three, you're probably not going to be the best possible coach. But curiosity is huge because you can't just take everything at face value.
So
You're
true.
getting started. Hey, you should emulate other people. You should copy people's programs. But over time, you should be asking yourself, is this the best way to do this? Can I make it better? How do I make this my own? And that's a whole different level. But I think maybe we can do it when we get kids in their 20s, early to mid 20s. I think it's a lot easier when they're young and malleable.
What a great response. Let me ask you. This is all for the aid and help and growth of coaches in strength and
Yep.
conditioning performance. This is not a so the question's set up for this way. Young coaches right now that you've seen, are we skipping steps in this process? If so, what are those steps that we're skipping? Um, in terms and measures of um, I think in our profession, it should be equal parts theory and equal parts apprenticeship. To me, it's an
Yes. I
apprenticeship
love
model.
that.
Like
I love
I
that.
honestly think in academia, it should be that way too. I know
Agreed.
some schools, you've got, hey, you have to have an internship to go through or to graduate, but that's a step I think is critically important. With social media, the click of a button and all the information overload, are we skipping steps for young coaches? If so, what are they? Today's episode has been brought to you by Physical Preparation for Ice Hockey, Biological Principles and Practical Solutions, and the Gain Go Grow Manual. This is a 2-part book series exploring training the intermediate and advanced level players. Book number 1 explores training the intermediate player. Chapters include long-term athletic development, considerations, speed training, power training, strength training, and program design. The Gain Go Grow Manual explores training the high-performance hockey player. Chapters include biomechanics of ice hockey, considerations for high performers, minimizing adaptational risks while upsizing gains, the Gain Go Grow model, and example microcycles. More information can be found at Amazon.com.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. We're confusing knowledge for experience.
Yeah.
Right? So here's what I mean by that. You and I, again, Eric Cressy, I'm sure Tony Gentilcore, I could probably list all the people that came up in like a certain era, right? Like that 2000s era. We had this beautiful blend of, hey, we're in the gym working all day, but we had access to information that nobody had access to before, right? Even if you go back to the 90s, how were you getting information? Bodybuilding magazines, or you're going to a physical library and getting research articles and making photocopies of them.
That's right.
Right? Fast forward 10 years to like mid 2010s. Now there's articles, there's podcasts, YouTube, right? Now 10 more years, now everything is on our phone, a click away. So what ends up happening is you can consume a just tremendous amount of information in a very short period of time. And if you're smart, you can regurgitate it. Right? This is something Joe Ken and I used to talk about all the time.
Yep.
Like you can tell when some young whippersnapper, because I can say this because I was that guy, right? I could cite Shirley Sarman, Stu McGill.
Oh, yeah,
hey, I can reference that
guy
Charlie
too.
Francis. I know. We all go through it, and that's okay. We all go through it. But you can riff off all these things. But Joe Ken was like, hey, I know what Charlie Francis believed. What do you believe? Right? And that's a big jump. So it's very easy to consume information and consume knowledge, right? But it's in a vacuum if you don't take that time and you don't get in the gym and you don't have the reps. Because yeah, you're going to get some wins, but you know what? You're going to take a lot of losses as well. And that's okay. The losses and the failures are part of it. Obviously, you don't want somebody to get hurt, but that's part of it. But that's how you learn. And oh man, that I thought that exercise would be great. It wasn't. I thought that cue would be perfect. They didn't get it. But you don't understand that if you don't get in the gym, like they used to say, if you're not in the arena, you don't really know what works and what doesn't.
So true. Speaking of small business, your business and change and how long you've been in the field, your business model, how has it changed? And we talked off air.
Yeah.
I want to talk about specifically your current model, how it used to be, and then I want to talk about the internship, what you're doing with it now, and then why that has changed.
Yeah. Can I give you the background story?
Of course.
Like, can we go even before that?
Yeah, please.
Please. So again, if you think about mid 2000s, there was a certain line of thinking where if you're a good coach, you don't work for other people. You work for yourself. You open your own gym, right? You did that.
Oh, big time.
Right? I don't know if you had the same line of thinking.
Yeah, I did.
I'm a good coach, so I'm going to go work for myself.
Yeah.
I did that. You did that. Eric Cressy did that.
Yep.
So you look at that. But then when you get in and you open a business, you have this other kind of realization like, oh crap. Now I'm not just a trainer. Now I'm an operations manager and a marketing manager and a sales manager and maybe an internship coordinator. So you just took your one job and turned it into about 10. Oh, and by the way, rent's due every month and you got a 3 or 5 year lease, whatever it is. But that was the path, right? And so when we get in, and this is, August 4th, 2008, iFast opens its doors. We have our first intern in 2009. Nick the intern. Shout out to Nick Rosencutter, the first official
first
iFast
ever,
intern.
baby.
The first ever. In fact, he was such a character. For a while, we would call all of the interns Nick the intern, regardless of their name. we got away from that because it was kind of demeaning.
Hey,
But
speaking of that, I got to give a shout out to our first intern who you know, Anthony Anarino.
oh yes,
First ever.
Another Ant. I love
Ant,
that
baby,
guy.
Ant.
Yes, yes. Shout out to Ant and the
Yeah,
Wizards.
yeah.
So anyway, that's the line of thinking, right? And
Yep.
so we get in there, and being the OCD type A personality that I am, I'm like, hey, no, I can do all the things. I can be a great husband. When we have kids, I can be a great dad. I'm going to be a great coach. I'm going to run a world-class business. And after a while, you can do that, but you burn yourself out, right? You realize it's incredibly hard to do. And so we were almost victims of our own success. And I say that in the most humble way because we had amazing people that came into our gym, amazing interns that, over time, many of them turned into amazing staff. And so what I mean by victims of our own success was we would build these amazing coaches, build like conjunct,
Yep.
you know,
Yep. Yep.
together.
Sure.
They put in the work. We tried to mentor them and shape them and mold them. And so, man, we go from, guys that are there 10 years, right? Lance was with us 10 years. Jay was with us 7. Ty was with us 5, right? And then Eric at the end, he was there with us 3. So we're keeping guys for shorter periods of time because there's such a huge demand for high quality coaches, right? And we're not losing them to, the F-45 down the street. They're going to Exos and Google and the Indiana Pacers, the Atlanta Hawks. Like, it's really hard. So it's like a testament to our work and to their growth because
Sure.
they've grown into these amazing positions, but it's getting harder and harder to find good interns, right? People that are curious and hardworking and great personalities that then want to put in the time to become a great coach. All the while, I realize, hey man, I love coaching. Like, I don't know how else to put this. I love coaching. I don't love running a fitness business. And I know that's almost taboo because I've had a gym for 16 years, but man, I love coaching more than anything.
Sure.
Like, get out of bed, I can coach. I could have a horrible day, not sleep much. I can go coach. And so I kind of had this realization of, look, if I were to just blow this up and make it what I want it to be, I would love to be able to come in and have a space like this, right? And I know a lot of the people and staff that I talked to at the time, they're like, hey, man, we would like to kind of like make our own hours and kind of dictate our own terms. I said, great. We flipped the entire thing on its head. So we go from having employees, and keep in mind, we did this for 13 years. We have an employee-based model where, hey, here are your hours. This is what you get paid per hour, to here are the clients. You keep track of your hours. Whatever hours you use the gym, you pay us an hourly fee, and then we're off to the races. So what that allowed me to do was take so much stress off my plate from a business management perspective. Are we making our numbers this month? How many trials do we have? Are our trials converting? All the stuff that you're worried about when you're a business owner. Now I'm not worried about that. Now there's other issues that you worry about, but what it did was it decreased my stress level. It helped me kind of shape and mold the business into what I wanted it to be today. And it would just allowed me to continue to invest my time and energy into the things that I'm most passionate about, which are coaching and then education.
So dotting the I's and crossing the T's. So
Yeah.
business right now, independent contractors that you
Yes.
supply clients for, correct?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. Well, they have to find their own, but initially we had all of the clients. Like they already
sure.
kind of had our book. And so we literally just said, now they're your clients.
Now
But
I
yes,
know
as new people come in, we give them to them as well.
now I know the kind of person you are, so I'm going to ask this question.
Yeah.
How do you sustain quality in a model like that?
Okay.
Meaning, you know what I mean? Like Mike
Yeah,
Robertson
absolutely.
quality, right?
Absolutely.
It's your name. They come under your roof.
Absolutely. So it starts with kind of setting the expectation and the
Okay.
tone. So we put some guardrails in place, right? You want to do 2 hours a week in the gym, you're not going to be a good fit here. So we put a minimum, right?
Got
And
it.
basically we put a $500 a month minimum. So immediately, if you're going to be in here, we know you're at least somewhat serious, right? You got a couple clients. You're not the guy that just wants to come in and train 1 hour a week and then just use the gym to do arm curls for an hour. So we kind of set the standard there. And then when we're having the conversation, I just tell the coaches, look, it's very weird. Like the whole independent contractor setup is unique because you're used to having all this control
Sure.
as a business owner, and now you literally have none. I can't tell them when they work. I can't tell them what they wear. I can't tell them what they charge, anything, right? They
Okay.
can't even wear IFAS stuff, which is very weird because they could be listed as an employee. So the conversation I have with them early on is, look, I'm here to help you though, right? You're not my employee. I can't tell you what to do, but if you want to get better, I'd like to think I've got a game plan for you. So you want to get access to my cert? I'll give you access to my cert. I'll put you in my program design mentorship. You train basketball players? Perfect. I got a place for that. So this way, they've got constant stimulation and education. And the people that really want to lock in and do something and move the needle as far as their career goes, they have all this access and opportunity, right? And if they don't, that's fine too, because some people, hey, if you're just doing like basic body comp type work, you're going to do some bodybuilding stuff, that's great. That's great. That's your lane. But if you want to do the stuff that I'm doing and try and learn from what I've done, here's a path to do that.
And at the current moment right now, just ballpark, how many independent contractors do you have? And how many people in the gym, for example, you go in this afternoon to a 5 o'clock appointment,
Yeah.
and you have a small group. Maybe
Yep.
it's 2 or 3 athletes, basketball players.
Yep.
How many people will be in the gym at that time?
Yeah. So I can tell you right now we have, I think it's 6 or 7. We got another guy getting ready to start. So we've got 6 or 7 coaches on board. So it's a good number. And I've always told the staff, I don't want 20 or 30, right? I need enough to cover rent and give us a buffer so that we can replace equipment and all that good stuff. I'm not looking to make huge money off this, but we got to be in the black. And then really that is the biggest issue is the logistical side of it. And I'm still buttoning that up because right now, not a huge deal. The only time it's been a big deal, 9 to 12 a.m., Monday through Friday in June and July.
Yeah.
You know why? All those kids are out of school. All the parents still have their regular schedule. So now everybody wants to get the work in first thing during the week.
Yeah. We run into problems like that. This is just my narrative. Agree or disagree. I'm speaking now to young coaches. The private sector is a humbling business. Like
Oh,
it's just a humbling business. If you
yeah.
build it, they will come. Bullshit. Excuse my
No,
French.
no, no, not at all.
That's just not how it works.
Yeah.
And if you really peel the hood back and look at numbers,
Hmm.
net
Yeah.
numbers, you'll realize it's a humbling pursuit. And sometimes the most frustrating parts are for guys like you, and I don't call us old timers,
Yeah.
is that big arms, big legs, and hollow heads don't make great coaches. But if you don't
Right.
have educated people around you, it doesn't matter where you go, right? Like
Yeah. No, absolutely.
in Columbus, Ohio, I got 4 gyms stones throw from me.
Yeah,
Stones throw.
absolutely.
Anyone with a pulse can open a gym. So
Yes.
I always tell young kids this. Number one, understand the field. Number two, understand that right now in our field, it's overcrowded and overpopulated. How
Yeah,
can you get ahead from that? Understand that when you do build something, probably the smartest thing to do at the get-go is learn from somebody really smart.
for sure.
Make mistakes. Also, you'll find out it might not be what you want to do.
Absolutely.
Like you might not want to do
Absolutely.
it.
We've had that. We've had interns that have done an entire internship and they're like, you guys are amazing. And
I don't
I
want to
thought
do
this
it.
is what I wanted. I don't want to do it.
That's right.
And one girl went off. I forget. She was like a dairy farmer or
Yes.
something. I'm like, hey, good for you. She was amazing. Like I
Yeah.
loved her as an intern. She had great empathy. She didn't want to do it. Okay, great.
Hunter, I read this on a Twitter feed. I told this to Kevin Burjesh, and I forget who tweeted it. It's so true. And it was a coach that's been around for a long time. He goes, you want to be curious and be a good coach. He said, do yourself a favor, either a non-paid internship or free. Train a group of anywhere from 12 to 13-year-olds for 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll find out A, if you can coach, or B,
Yep.
if you want to coach.
Yeah.
But at any rate, I'm off on a tangent.
No,
Um,
I'm with you.
we talked about burnout. This is something that I'll be honest. When I first came up, I never heard about this. Like it was just me. At the
Yep.
time, DSC, I worked 5:40 in the morning until 10 in the morning. I'd come back from 3 to 9 o'clock at night,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
5 days a week and weekends. And not
Yep.
once did I hear a burnout.
Yep.
It seems that this day and age, that's all we hear.
Yep.
Is that something that we're overly sensitive about right now, or is it a realistic? Is it just something that was always there and it just was kind of swept under the rug in terms and measures of this our profession? And I am going to bias it a little bit. Honestly, this is just my opinion. If you want to be good at anything that you do, you got to kind of embrace some monotony. I don't know how many times have you
Yes.
seen a squat, Mike? Like
Oh.
1,000,
Yeah.
30,000, 40,000.
Yeah. Probably more. Probably
Anyways,
more.
sorry,
Right.
I'll answer the question, but
No,
let you
no.
answer.
No, I think part of it is just the language that we
Okay.
use these days. Part of it is like the culture. And I think there's a healthy discussion,
Sure.
right, in
Big
the
time.
whole mental health piece.
Yep. So do I.
And I think probably some of us probably did deal with that. We just didn't use that language at the time,
Good
right?
point. Yep.
But I think a lot of it is exacerbated by this thing right here,
Yep.
right? We're so locked in on this. We're so focused on what other people are doing. We're not comfortable, like you said, really just sticking with the plan for an extended period of time, right? I
Yep.
think a lot of times burnout happens when you push really hard for 3 months and you expect to be at your lifelong goal.
Sure.
It takes time, man. It takes time. So like kind of the mindset, and it took me a while to embrace this as well. But just this idea of, hey, we're working really hard on the day to day, right? But we don't expect the results until way down the line, right? And there's probably a more eloquent
Yep.
or succinct way to say that. But it's like, hey, too often we expect the results to just come without putting in the work, right? So you still got to work hard every day, but then you have the patience to sit back and realize, hey, real mastery, real success takes years, it takes decades. And so when you can have that kind of just like big picture viewpoint, then you're like, okay, you don't feel as rushed. You don't feel like it has to happen tomorrow. Um, but yeah, I think when it comes to burnout, a lot of it is just people that want things to happen too fast, right? They're listening to too many external people. I mean, we could get on a whole like
Yep.
discussion about your inner circle,
Yep.
right? And the people you have around you. If the 5 people around you are all talking about how they're burnout, stressed out, all that, well, what kind of language do you think you're going to have?
Sure. Sure.
So I think there's a lot of layers to that. But I think being more patient, getting rid of the phone, getting off social. I post on social, but you don't live on social,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
This is a crazy stat. I think I saw the other day because Australia is banning social media. Did you see this?
I did
For
not.
kids, for kids 16 and
Wow.
under,
Wow.
totally banning it because they said the average teenager in Australia was using social media 4 hours and 40 minutes a day.
Golly.
So again, I mean, just think about what you're putting in your brain,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
And then think about, okay, hey, if I want to change this, what's my environment? Start there. Get off the phone, get better friends, start there, and then see where you end up.
Pivot here. I want to
Yeah.
talk about your training model. I know I've first heard about this many years ago, but I want you to educate the listener, and perhaps there's a new twist or a new approach. But I want to talk about your R7 approach. Can you walk us through that? What is it to the listener that's never heard of it before?
Yeah, yeah. So R7 is probably how you already write programs. It's just a more streamlined and efficient way to set it up. So one of the biggest issues we had, because again, it's Bill Hartman and I in 2008 when we opened the gym, and we're nerds, dude. Like we're reading Shirley Sarman for fun, and like, oh, did you see this section? Like we're nerds.
Yep.
And so when we write a program, we've got nerdy words and nerdy jargon that nobody else understands. Like when you come into the gym and the first thing on your sheet says soft tissue mobilization, unless you're a nerd like us, you have no
Yep.
clue. Like if you're just a 40-year-old housewife that wants to get in better shape, you're like, what does that mean? So it was probably about 2011 we start to figure this out, and it's myself and Bill and a guy named Eric Otter, who's probably smarter than
Brilliant.
all of us.
Oh,
Yeah,
brilliant. Yeah.
yeah,
Brilliant.
running things with the Grizzlies right now.
Yep.
But the three of us are sitting in a room and we're like, we got to make this easier, right? How do we make this easier to follow and understand? So we started coming up with letters to reflect it. We happened to find ours that worked really well. So we had release, reset, readiness, reactive, resistance, resiliency, and recovery. So these 7 R's, right, which literally tell you what we're doing at each phase of the program. And it's not just language for you and I, right? Like one of the big things for me, I want my athletes to understand why they're doing stuff.
100%.
Core belief, if they understand and can imagine the value or the impact of doing this stuff, they're going to buy in and they're going to get better results. So release. Oh, yeah, that's where I get on that roller and I roll out my quad and it hurts like heck. But then when I'm done, I've got more mobility and my knee doesn't hurt.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Same thing with readiness. Oh, yeah, it's my warm up. Reactive, that's my power, resiliency, conditioning. So we've really created it in a way to help our clients and athletes better understand what we're doing throughout the workout. And then, like a side benefit of that was at that point in time, we were hiring employees and we had interns. So now it gives us a framework that we can all look at programming through.
Yep.
Because we were so diverse, right? We had like myself, and then we had Bill, who's got more of a physical therapy background. We had Lance, who kind of did a little bit of everything. Trying to think, Jay Chung. Jay Chung was like a music masters
I
at
met him.
IU.
Yep, I
Yeah.
met him.
So, we've got all these different personalities and people that are writing programs for us. So now we're all looking at this through one lens because that's important, right? If you're in a facility, you don't want everybody doing a different program from a different coach. Now, hey, we've all got our own like pet exercises and things that we like, but anybody could pick up anybody else's program. So if Lance wrote a workout, I could pick it up and I'd know exactly what he's doing based on the exercise and where it fit into that program.
Brilliant, and I love the intent piece. It's easy. It's a theme. You know where you're at. It's easy for athletes to understand. And
Yeah,
like you said, if cross pollination, if you're picking someone else's workout up, fantastic. Um, Walk us through, or walk the listener through. I know you have a Gen Pop population as well, correct?
for sure.
I'm
For
an
sure.
athlete walking in with you for the first time.
Yep.
Hypothetical basketball player.
Yep.
Walk me through right now what an onboard
Mhm.
for a client would look like.
Yeah. No, this is a great question because this is something that I don't know about you. I'm always revamping this,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Are you
Yep.
always like tightening the screws? Maybe it's just,
I,
I don't
I,
know.
I am. You know what? I want you to answer this question, but I've found with my age, I'm always revamping it, but most of it is like not so much adding more, but taking things away. If that makes
Yeah.
any
Okay.
sense,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
Stuff that I've gotten rid of in hindsight, I wished I hadn't. For example,
Okay.
posture pictures. Most people are like, why do you do posture pictures? And I'm like, dude, you talk about a great before after. If somebody's on their right leg, let's take a basketball player, right? They're
Yep.
amazing jumping off their left, right? They can go finish at the rim, whatever, and they can't do anything off their right. Well, that's a problem, right? As
Sure.
a basketball player, that's a weak link. So if I can show you very clearly when you're just standing on your right foot and your weight's all shifted over and you're on the outside of your right foot, well, hey, this is something very clearly that they can see and understand.
Sure.
Hey, do you think if we could help you push straight through the ground, you could jump higher? Well, yeah. So circling back, what does the assessment and onboarding look like? First off, we will always do Q&A. I want to learn more about them,
Yep.
right? Beyond the X's and O's, what they want to get out of training. Who are you,
Yep.
right? Where have you played? What injuries are you dealing with? I just want to start to build that rapport.
Sure.
We go in the gym. I do the posture photos, right?
Awesome.
Because I still think there's value in that. I
I
like it for
remember you doing
tracking.
that. Sorry, I'm trying to
Yeah.
interrupt. I remember.
No.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You had a single leg. You bear hug one knee, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember because we
Yeah.
used to do
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
This guy. Yeah. Yeah.
Come on,
No,
man.
we still do that.
I'm not Mike
You're an
Robertson
OG.
educated, baby. Don't mess around.
You are.
All right.
You
Sorry,
are.
I interrupted you.
are.
Sorry, Mike.
No,
Keep
no,
going.
no. You're totally fine. You're totally fine. So we do the posture photos. I take them through a standardized warm up, right? Just a general
Yep.
warm up, and then I watch them move.
Yep.
Like this is one of the biggest shifts. I don't know if you remember, but back in the day, we had a time where we were doing like 45 minutes of table testing.
Yep. Yep.
And we just realized, dude, everybody that comes in here for general fitness is like, what are we doing? I'm not a physical therapy client.
Yep.
I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to
Yep.
improve my vertical. So we kind of came full circle on that. It's like, hey, we want you in a perfect world. Can you squat, hinge, split squat, push up? If so, which variation do we use? Because we do an entire assessment and then we'd still be guessing on what exercise to give them.
Sure.
So we just lasered in on this. It's like, hey, we're going to squat. Let's see what squat variation works best for you. Perfect. What split squat
Awesome.
works best? What push up? So it sounds incredibly basic,
Yeah.
but we hone in on all that. So there's a little bit of coaching,
Yep.
right? There's some feedback. We figure out what exercises are best. So that way, that first program, dude, we're off and running.
That's great.
There's no guesswork. We've already found out what they can do. And then I'll take them at the end, especially with an athlete. I want to watch them do some explosive stuff.
Okay.
So maybe that's accelerations. Maybe that's defensive shuffling. Put them on the force plates.
Yep.
Right? Like, let's do the entire gamut. And so that way I've got all this information. And then it's on me. I always tell them, like, look, this is like kind of anticlimactic. I'll show them a couple things like, hey, here's your posture. Hey, you've got this asymmetry when you jump. But now I'm going to take all this, I'm going to look at it, and then I'm going to take it and we're going to put it into a program for you. So that's kind of what the onboarding looks like as far as that first session goes. And then I always wrap up with any questions. I think of questions / objections. They're just, people just want to know more. Like,
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
why are we doing this? How is this going to help me? So just trying to help them better understand the process.
You know, I think I've said this a million times. I stole it from Matt Jordan, but the perception of the program may be more important than the program itself. I've
For
always
sure.
said
For
this
sure.
specifically with like our advanced hockey players and athletes. That's the first thing I take them through is Q&A, and then I ask you, what's worked good for you in the past? Like, what do you really like
Oh my
doing?
gosh. Right.
Conversely, like, what do you hate doing? That doesn't mean you're never going to do it, but
Right.
just to start that seed and that build in, and I think it's important. But one thing you did mention, and I want this, which literally parlays into this next question, and I'm really interested in your response to this because I believe you and I and people like Eric Cressy and people like Michael Boyle have very unique opinions on this. And here's what I mean by
Hmm.
a unique opinion. If I'm working for name a team in the NHL and my budget is $40,000, yeah, I might get a couple of force plates. I get the
Right.
1080. I got, throw in a couple of these. We don't.
Right.
Our budgets look like my hairline. Well, I'll speak for
Yeah.
myself. I'll speak
Yeah.
for
No,
myself,
you and
Mike.
me both,
Okay.
bro.
And I
It's not
remember
as strong
Mike
as it
going
used to be.
back and forth on Twitter just recently, and he said something about like, learning technology by someone that's paying to be learned it, by someone that's paying you to be paid. And it was a funny way of saying, like, for a private sector person,
Yeah.
you don't have that ability to. So
Yeah.
you got to A, know what you want and why you want, what problem you're trying to solve. And then B, can it help your process and be efficient? So
Yep.
all that windiness for asking you, what do you value right now from a technology standpoint and why?
Yeah. So let me just lead with this. Become a really I think it's easier if you become a really good coach first.
Oh, yeah.
Start with the coaching side. Like if you're not coming from a sports science background, if you're just in this because you love fitness and you love writing workouts, all that, become a great coach first, right? Start to understand those pieces, dial in your basic assessment process. And then I always find technology is it's got to answer questions for me. It's got to answer questions that I can't answer on my own. And I'd like to think, dude, 24 years in, my eyes are pretty good.
Yep.
I can't tell you if somebody's got a 5%, 10% asymmetry when they
Yeah.
squat or jump. So, especially for me, because I find myself kind of running or bridging that gap between rehab and performance. You know as well as I do. Most pro athletes are never 100% healthy when they
Never.
come back to you in the off season. So it's like, how dinged up are you?
Yep.
Let's find what's going on. Let's craft some KPIs and then let's work towards this. So when you get back at the start of next season, you're healthier and in a better spot than when we got you. So I think that is the biggest place to start is what questions are you not getting answered that technology can help you solve or answer. And that's where I got. Honestly, I had a couple really tricky cases. I had a guy coming off an Achilles tear. I had another
Oh,
guy
geez.
that was coming off a combo ACL microfracture. I mean, I had like 3 or 4 people where it's like, look, I don't want this to be wishy-washy.
Sure.
I think that's another piece of it too, right? I don't want subjective feelings
Yep.
getting in the way of this. I want some hard numbers to lean on, right or wrong. At least we're trending towards something and tracking something. So I feel like, okay, we're getting, closer to this end goal that we've have deemed as important.
Sure.
So that was the deciding factor for me.
I know you have a set of Hawkins plates.
Yes.
We do as well. And I've toyed back and forth with the metrics that we've been tracking for our hockey players. Here's what we've settled on right now. And I know there's 70 plus.
Yeah.
So what we've settled on for a non-injured athlete, and we can obviously toy around with these if there's injuries that occur and look at numbers. But here's what we've been tracking for performance: just standard jump height.
Yep.
For strategy, time to take off. We used to do MRSI, but Matt Jordan opened me up to trying to stay away from ratios. There may be too much noise. So,
Yep.
and then for health, the braking and propulsive impulse index. We did a
Hmm.
little experiment ourselves with our athletes for healthy athletes with that. I think it can be noisy on the eccentric portion, but I
Yep.
do think you're right what you said in terms of trying to create some sort of objectivity and being able to have some discourse, like some verbal discourse with therapists and players as well, to be able to measure that over time. And the last
Yep.
one I'll say that we've been tracking for injured athletes, specifically ACLs, is this eccentric rate of force development. Seems to be
Hmm.
something that's really important. How
Yep.
fast can you turn on the brakes? And then perhaps on an ACL, something that you get last before
Yes.
you're back on the ice or back on the court. So
Yep.
having said that, that's what we're doing. Be curious as to what you guys are looking at and why.
Yeah. Okay, great question. And I will do my best to answer
Yep.
this
Yep.
in a sophisticated and well thought out manner. Same jump height to
Okay.
start. Everybody wants to know that. One of the fun things about that is just educating athletes on how jump height isn't always the same, right?
It's so
So,
true,
hey,
right?
your point four jump on one day is totally different than your point four jump on another day. So helping them understand that, that's just a little tangent, but I think that's really illustrative. Like, hey, on this day it took you, you know, zero point 0.6 seconds. On this day it took you 0.85. Is that the same jump? Does that matter when you're jumping on a basketball court? So anyway,
Yep.
tangent, but I think that stuff's important. I like force at minimum
Yep.
displacement.
Yep.
For me, that is one that just kind of makes sense because that's kind of like your minimum displacement. That's probably a breaking point or
Correct.
turnaround point.
Yep.
So that's where you're going to come in and out of a lot of cuts,
Yep.
right? And so that's kind of the way I think about it, almost across sports. Probably, I don't know. It's probably conjecture, but again, I would think if an ACL or something is going to go,
Yep.
hey, maybe that's a point that we need to be looking at. One that I have not heard people talk about as much, or at least not in the way I'd look at it. Early in the off season, I like looking at CMJ depth.
Okay. Yep.
And here is why. We know that over the course of an off season, or excuse me, over the course of a competitive season, athletes are going to get pushed forward,
Okay.
right? They're going to
Yep.
become stiffer. They're going to generally lose range of motion. So one of the things that I track from more of a health perspective early in the off season is recapturing CMJ depth.
Like it.
Okay, I don't know if that's right or wrong, but in general, I find when we get that back, right, they've shifted their center of gravity back. It's more uniform, like triple flexion, versus just bending at one joint and being really stiff, right?
Interesting.
We know the stiffness is important, but we also know stiffness gone too far
Yep.
can negatively impact somebody, right? And now all the loading is very focal on certain tendons, tissues, whatever. So that's one I like. I like peak eccentric velocity,
Okay.
right? I just think I stole that one from Daniel Martinez because it's one of those things where I find as that number goes up, assuming they have the appropriate brakes, if they can turn that around, that's free energy,
Yep.
right? So I like that one. Um, a little bit off the beaten path. If we're using like a CMJ rebound, I think is actually my favorite test for asymmetry.
Interesting. We
Okay.
do not do that, so I'm curious.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Talk to me.
So squat jump, right? Concentric, right? You're just
Yep.
jumping and landing, right? You can hide. A CMJ, a little bit less so because you've still got to dip and then go, but you can still hide and shift a little bit.
Yep.
CMJ rebound, you can't hide, right? Because in a perfect world, when you jump and you land, it needs to be either quick or at least max effort intent to get back up again. So that's where I see some of these breaking asymmetries, right? You talked about like RFD or that
Yep.
sort of thing. So that's where I see some of the asymmetries really creep out. And so I've used that a couple times. And again, I think I got that from Drake. He talked about that, and then I found that a couple of times in athletes where they're like, you look at all their other tests and they're like, my hip or my knee, my ankle, something. You're looking at all the other tests, and you're like, no, it's pretty good. But then you put them on the CMJ rebound, max effort, you see it in that second jump,
Interesting.
right? Somewhere in there, it shows its rears its
Interesting.
ugly face, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those are some of my favorites.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, interesting. Another thing I wanted to piggyback on, because this also interests me about you and your approach that I love. This is just me. The older I've gotten in strength and conditioning, it's not that I think the weight room's less important, but you want to be an awesome guitar player, you got to play the guitar. And if you're
Yeah.
playing a high level sport like hockey, my narrative, and this is our whole model: gain, go, grow. I think it's important that you focus on the skill in the target environment. You do. I watch some of your stuff with your basketball players. I know you're a huge, huge fan of Lee Taft. I know you've taken.
Yeah.
How do you fuse the skill with the weight touches? Is it at the onset? Is it a totally separate day? Is it a recovery day? How do you do that?
No, man, it's baked in, dude. It is
Love it.
baked into the session. So when we talked about our R's up top, R4 is reactive. So depending on how many days per week I have an athlete, we're going to have a different emphasis on movement qualities
Okay.
in those given days. So let's say I have an athlete 4 days a week, right? Monday would be a lateral acceleration day.
Okay.
So shuffling, lateral running, that sort of thing, but
Yep.
focusing on kind of the first couple steps.
Yep.
The second day, Tuesday, would be a linear change of
Yep.
direction day. I try and stagger the change of direction days because they make you more sore, right?
Okay.
Inherently bigger eccentric contractions, just more stress on the body. So Tuesday would be like a linear acceleration slash change of direction day. So that could be sprinting out into a lunge stop, into a jump stop. Wednesday is generally recovery. Thursday would be a linear acceleration day or
Yep.
curvilinear day.
Yep.
And then Friday is our big day. It's our lateral change of direction day.
Awesome.
So these things are all baked in. And then you think about it, like even getting to another level, like if Tuesday and Friday, we know from a change of direction day, they're going to make us the most sore. Well, those are our leg training days,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
We want to bake it into their skill development. Those are the days we're going to do the most change of direction on the court, right? Charlie Francis,
Yep.
right? Just
100%.
40 years later, converted into basketball and, strength and conditioning.
100%.
Keep the high days high.
That's right.
So to answer your question, it's all baked in there, right? So if we're working on lateral acceleration on Monday, hey, we're going to work on shuffling. We're going to work on hip turns. And shout out to Lee Taft because he really is. He's the GOAT, man. And I've learned so much from him.
Yeah.
But it's all baked in. And what you might find surprising is, yeah, I work with everything from middle school to collegiate and professional athletes. There are a lot of professional athletes that don't do some of these fundamental skills at a high level, right? They can accelerate well. They're doing like literally like some sort of weird crossover versus, hey man, like let's actually like get a big push with that outside leg. They don't know how to close out. They're taking 30 little chop steps on their toes because that's what they were taught, because that's what their coach from 60 years ago taught. So to answer your question in a succinct way, yeah, it's all baked into the workout, dude. Like I'm teaching movement skill every day. And then it's my job on the back end to try and layer in the S&C to support the game skills.
Outstanding. Final pivot. Want to respect your time.
Yeah.
Educational resources. And you've got a lot of them and they're all fantastic. Talk to me about what is offered in terms of what you offer educational resources wise. And I know you have a couple things coming up to seminars. Talk about the force plate seminar and the Joel Jamieson opportunity as well.
Yeah. Okay, so I always tell people, if you've never heard of Mike Robertson, if you know nothing about what I do, just go to my website, sign up for the newsletter, and just get free stuff, right? There's so much free stuff there, right? Like literally, I've been creating content since like 2001, which is crazy. But articles, blogs, podcasts, videos, there's so much free stuff there. Just start consuming and start seeing, hey, do I like this guy? Do I jive with what he's selling? Whatever. Start there. If you enjoy that, and or if you have some experience or you've done the certification, right? You've got the piece of paper, but you're not having the success you want. Complete coach certification is kind of my bridge to get you from, hey, you've done the cert, you understand the X's and O's of training, but you want to understand how to train real people. And you and I kind of talked about this up top, right? There's a big difference between reading a textbook, taking an exam, and then getting real results with real people in the gym. So the complete coach cert covers everything from assessments, program design, coaching and cueing, exercise demos. It's literally the process that we would take our interns and our coaches through to get them up to speed.
Awesome.
So I'd say start with those. As far as courses go, Hawken Dynamics and myself, we're going to do a course actually this Friday at IFAST. So that's exciting. Really just trying to educate people on the power of force plates. We're not all sports scientists. I mean, yeah, I got a master's degree. It was 20 years ago. Force plates and data and technology has changed a lot since then. So we're just going to try and educate people on, number one, what are they? How do you use them? I'm going to take it a little bit further and say, hey, as a business owner, it's a big investment, right? It's a big investment. And,
You're darn right.
Nothing against, I love Hawken. I think it's a great investment. You can absolutely make your money back, but you have to have a plan. Right? It's just like you don't open a business without having a business plan.
Yep.
Don't buy force plates without having a business plan to support them.
Yep.
So that's actually what I'm going to talk about is not just how I use them and the value that I find in them, but hey, here's how we use them to make real money with them because they can be a massive profit center. So that's what I'm going to talk about. And then Joel and I, anytime I can hang out with Joel, I'm going to hang out with Joel. He hates Seattle. I don't think he minds me saying this. He hates Seattle from January to March. He's like, it's gray and rainy the entire time. So him and his wife go to Vegas. So I'm going to go to him in Vegas. We're going to hang out for a couple of days. I want to work on some business stuff. And then we're going to do a workshop, probably like a combined talk about some conditioning, talk about stuff to do in the gym. But just, hey, man, how do we merge all of this stuff that people were talking about into something cohesive that you can use? Because lots of people talking about strength, endurance, mobility, all these different buzzwords. How do you take all of that and put it into a cohesive program that doesn't take you 2 to 3 hours to run through in the gym?
Awesome. Last question.
Yeah.
I know some coaches hate this. I don't like this crap. It's not a, but I ask it for a lot people that have been in the game for a long time,
Yeah.
long before you're gone. How do you want to be remembered in our field? Like you and I came up, and we were like, this is back in the day with Tupac and Biggie and DMX.
Yeah.
I mean, we're a little bit old school right now. I'm not saying we're
Absolutely.
old. I mean, there's been I've had some of my mentors on the podcast been lucky enough to have Buddy Morris and Dan Paff and Mike Boyle. These guys have been doing it since I was in diapers, and respect to
real
that.
OGs.
But
real
I will
OGs.
say, you're you've been around and you've put a lot out there and left this field in a better place. How do you want to be remembered if someone bumped into Mike Robertson or said, "Hey, who's this Mike Robertson guy?"
Man, this is a really good question, a really hard question. I would just want that person to know that I did everything in my power to make this space better, right? A lot of it unpaid, right? And I don't say
Nope.
that in a negative way,
Nope.
but there's a lot of time, right? I don't get paid for IG posts
Yep.
or dropping podcasts,
Yep.
right? We're 460 some episodes in at this point. I mean, hundreds of articles, right? Like there's a lot of content out there. So just as somebody that genuinely loved the industry, that wanted to take this space and make it the best that it could, right? And again, I'm one person, but that's what got me to come full circle on this. As much as I love coaching, the only thing that could compete with coaching is education. Because when you're coaching, you can impact 1, 2, 3 people, right? But then the knowledge stops there. If I impact one coach that's got 10 people, 15, 20 people, now if I can impact hundreds or thousands of coaches, that's massive leverage. And that's making an even bigger impact on the space and on the industry. So I would say that's it, man. That Mike Robertson genuinely loved and cared for this space, and he wanted to see it in a better spot when he moves on than when he came in.
Our guest today has been Mike Robertson. Mike, thanks so much for joining us.
Dude, thanks for having me, Ant. Appreciate it.